So Chinese manufacturer Xiaomi is once again slain when it comes to wallet-friendly smartphones. Last year with the Redmi Note 8T and 8 Pro it proved it was one of the kings of the budget blowers, and now this year's Redmi Note 9 Pro once again looks like it'll be one of 2020's champions. This bad boy costs just 249 quid here in Blighty, or 269 if you want to boost up to the model with 128 gigs of storage. And considering the strong camera chops, the slick performance and the excellent set of features, that price is a proper bargain. So I've had my SIM card slapped in the Redmi Note 9 Pro for the last few days, been using it as my full-time personal smartphone, and I gotta say, spoiler alert, I really bloody like it. So here's my full Redmi Note 9 Pro review, and for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now there's no real polite way of saying this, but the Redmi Note 9 Pro is an absolute behemoth. This hefty 6.67-inch phone is a seriously chunky monkey, proving quite the handful, or rather two handfuls, because I definitely would not recommend operating it with just a single mitt, even with the one-handed mode. Now if you grab yourself the standard 64GB model of the Redmi Note 9 Pro, you've got a trio of colours to choose from. You've got this here Interstellar Grey, otherwise Tropical Green or Glacier White. However, this is the 128GB model, and that only comes in Interstellar Grey. And normally I'm about as excited by the colour grey as I am at the prospect of a Mrs. Brown's Boys TV marathon, but that silver surfacing is brought to life somewhat by the surreal multi-reflective design. Of course, pretty standard, that shiny back end is soon marred by all kinds of finger grease and grubbiness as soon as you so much as pick the phone up. But in better news, that Gorilla Glass 5 plating is definitely doing its job. There's only the teeniest little nicks here on the back of the Redmi Note 9 Pro, and that's it. As for the other end, well, it's once again a bit more Gorilla Glass 5, and this time you've got a screen protector slapped on top of that as well, so you can treat the Redmi Note 9 Pro as mean as you like and it'll keep on looking smart. And Xiaomi has also had this handset treated by P2i to add a bit of splash resistant finish, and you'll be glad to hear that the UK weather this week has been suitably whack. So yes, the 9 Pro definitely does just fine in a drizzle. But what about the software, I pretend to hear you cry? Well, the Redmi Note 9 Pro serves up the latest freshest Android 10, and that's fit to burst thanks to the MiUI 11 launcher slapped on top to add a heap of extra features. And if you're not familiar with MiUI, well, it's Xiaomi's custom launcher which it sticks on all of its smartphones, changes up the look and the feel and gives it more of a Xiaomi vibe to help set it apart from the rest of the Android stable. And in this incarnation it is definitely still a bit of a love-hate affair. If we start with the crappy stuff, well, there's still no App Store option here, so your bits have to be spread all over the desktop on constant show, while you'll occasionally be interrupted by some weird little quirky bug as well. So as an example, my first proper day with the Redmi Note 9 Pro, I had found I had to constantly reset the Wi-Fi connection because my internet access would just keep dropping out for apparently no reason. Thankfully that little feature then buggered off and hopefully won't rear its ugly head again. However, MiUI 12, the latest incarnation of Xiaomi's launcher, should be coming like a superhero to the Redmi Note 9 Pro to sort out quite a few of those issues, including the lack of an apps tray, sometime around this summer. Huzzah! And Xiaomi's launcher does add some worthy tools as well, including a bit of game turbo action. Although sadly there's no always on display here, and the notifications light up top is the teeniest little thing in the world, so quite easy to miss. You got all the other hot bits that you would expect here on the Redmi Note 9 Pro as well, including dual band Wi-Fi support and a fresh bit of NFC as well, supporting that Google Pay functionality. And as well as being a dual SIM device, you've also got a separate slot for micro SD memory cards if you want to expand the onboard 64 or 128 gigs of storage. As for security, there's a side-mounted fingerprint sensor built into that power button, and this works beautifully. Just a quick tap of your digit and you're straight in. And that's backed by face recognition as well, which is slightly less reliable depending on the lighting in the room and also how much lockdown face fuzz you happen to have grown in the meantime. Media fans will undoubtedly get a massive kick out of that flippin' huge 6.67-inch IPS display, and despite its gargantuan size, the Full HD Plus 2400 by 1080 pixel resolution will keep your visuals pin sharp, perfect for chilling with your favourite show. The Redmi Note 9 Pro will automatically adjust the colours as well depending on the environmental conditions, so you will get warmer output in low light, but if you're not a fan of that you can tinker around in the settings and change it. On that auto mode I found that the output was very close to natural, and you can always boost the colour vibrancy if you do prefer more vivid visuals. And yeah, like recent Samsung smartphones, you do get a bit of pinhole camera there stuck in the middle of that top edge, but you do have the option to hide it away out of sight for some or all of your apps if you do not like it. great. Sadly, you don't get a super smooth 90Hz refresh rate here on the Xiaomi Redmi Note 9 Pro's display, unlike some rivals like the Realme 6 and the Realme 6 Pro, but to be fair, that is still a pretty bloody rare feature at this sort of price point. And the single bottom-mounted mono speaker does pump out fairly respectable audio as well, though I did miss a proper stereo speaker setup while I was gaming and the like. If you're really sold on that kind of feature, check out the Moto G8 Plus instead. But still, you got a good, reliable bit of Bluetooth 5.0 support and a proper dedicated headphone jack as well. And one of the best parts of the Redmi Note 9 Pro is the surprisingly slick performance, which definitely beats most budget rivals. That Snapdragon 720G platform was basically built for gaming and keeping you entertained on the go, and here it's propped up by a generous 6GB of RAM. But if all that techie guffins means basically nothing to you, well, don't worry, it's basically rare to see any kind of glitchy stutters here, and it's good news for gamers too. I played a good bit of PubG Mobile and it ran perfectly well on the HD detail setting on the high frame rate, and those are the maximum graphical settings that are currently supported on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. I did notice the occasional little drop in frame rate when I was tearing about in a car or whatever, but nothing too troubling. For the most part, you get a smooth experience, while the flat screen is well suited to those touch controls. And you also have the usual gaming mode on board to block notifications, boost performance if you needed, and so on. It's a pretty comprehensive effort. And this phone may be an absolute unit, but at least that size offers the advantage of a big battery as well. You get a mighty 5020 mAh stuffed inside to match budget rivals like the Oppo A9 2020 and the Moto G8 Power. And that basically means you can do whatever the hell you like with this thing. It sure as shit ain't dying before dusk. If you're really careful, you can just about make it through 2 full days on a charge, although I usually get through about a day and a half, even with plenty of media streaming, bit of gaming and all the rest. And that 30W fast charge is again perfectly respectable, again matching or beating most budget rivals. Now, one of the final aspects of the Redmi Note 9 Pro that really impressed me was the camera tech, which definitely punches above its weight. That 64MP primary lens uses Samsung's GM2 sensor, and even at the default 16MP resolution, you can expect sharp, good-looking photos when you beam the results to a big screen. Now, if you do want to shoot at the maximum 64MP level, then that is also an option, producing slightly more natural results when you zoom right in. I was definitely impressed by the color capture here too. The Redmi Note 9 Pro offers natural-looking pics as long as you knock off that AI mode. Leaving that on unfortunately tends to create rather artificial images that aren't particularly eye-pleasing. And in strong contrast situations, this budget blower ain't defeated either. It's rare to see any oversaturation, although you will notice detail loss in those darker areas when things get particularly taxing. As for low light situations, well, the night mode does help to brighten things up a bit, although it doesn't admittedly help much with the grain. You've got plenty of other camera features to play around with too, including a nifty portrait mode that does a commendable job, helped along by that 2MP depth sensor. And you've also got an 8MP ultra wide angle lens, which manages to once again produce quite natural results when you're widening the view. Oh, and you also have one of those 5MP macro lenses as well, great for flower fans. For video, you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage with that primary lens, or Full HD with the wide angle effort, although you can't swap between the two on the fly. Audio pickup gets a thumbs up as well, as does the color capture, although you will want to keep still if shooting at the Ultra HD resolution, as the stabilization ain't too hot. And last up, I also enjoyed the 16MP selfie snapper, which handles all kinds of lighting just as well as the back end. You've got the usual portrait mode smarts as well, again with solid results, so any Insta fans will be loving it. So in summary, the occasional software quirk aside, this is definitely one of the best budget blowers of the year, and hopefully MiUI 12 will help to correct some of those weird wonky little bits like the lack of an app store and the occasional weird bug. If you can get over that absolutely gargantuan stature, then definitely grab yourself the Redmi Note 9 Pro if you're looking for great performance, great camera tech, great battery life, great everything really, for around that £250 price point. And now over to you lovely folk. It'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, especially if you've actually played around with the Redmi Note 9 Pro yourself. Your own personal experience is always great to hear. Please do subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a lovely week. Cheers everyone, love you.